Good afternoon. My name's Mike Sterling. Now, my first memory of the Grand Theatre is probably going to be some time ago. I would say nearly 50 years ago, in fact, when I was 3 years old. And I came to the Grand Theatre to watch the panto. Now, my father was a coal miner for about 35 years, since the age of 15. And every year the families would get together and we'd have the miners' trip, and all the families and the children, the families would come to the pantomime to see Babes in the Woods or Jack and the Beanstalk, Cinderella, whichever it was. But Ryan Davis was my hero, and that was the first panto I saw, and I think it was Babes in the Woods. That would be 1973, I think, but it's a long time ago. So, and then consequently on from that, I used to come every year up until 1978, because Ryan had died the previous year. I was obsessed with Ryan from the age of 3. So it gives you an idea of the demographic that man covered was huge. So that's my first memory, and the 78 was Clive Dunn, I think, of Dad's Army, and he was still very good, but he wasn't Ryan, sorry, Clive. But it was that was my first memory, and I just always really, once I was old enough to know I could sing and things like that, I'd come back and forth to theatres to see Grand Theatre, to see the operas, and I thought I'd love to perform here, and it's coming back is really nostalgic, and also to see everywhere around. And I've been down with my daughter, and we've been travelling around, seeing the family, taking her past and say, "What's that over there, Scarlett?" She said, "I don't know. That's the jail, the Swansea jail, And next time the veg field is be over there." So we've had a bit of a history sort of trip, really, and particularly it's great to come back to the Grand, and I'm bumping into some familiar faces again. It's a special place. So yes, but as it the panto thing, the Ryan scenario, like I said, I was really, totally obsessed with everything about what he did. Not just what he did in panto, but particularly in panto, because as a child, I believed, it was, Dick Whittington, or was it Jack and the Beanstalk, and Babes in the Woods. I literally believed those characters, and I believed that. Even down to the dames and things. As a child, you believe all that, like it's like watching a film or whatever. You think it's real. Somewhere these people exist, and this is it's quite profound. But it takes a very special performer to do that, and Ryan certainly was one of those. And I also loved his stand-up. I loved his Ryan at the Rank. That was tremendous. And my mum came to see that, and she come away with one of these LPs that Ryan had signed and Doors of Pride and Joy, and I used to listen to that continuously. In fact, it's the point where I knew every single lyric, every single note of every single song that he sang, and even down to the actual stand-up dialogue in his act. And but I used to love Phyllis, I think it was, the traffic warden. Well, Italian, so love all that stuff. And I used to, with my friends and things, I'd mimic, and the thing about where the policeman stops in the car, and he says, he's been out, obviously drinking, and he said, puts his window down, he said, "Hello, good evening, can you blow in this bag?" He said, "Why, your chips hot?" All those gags, just brilliant. And he said, took him into the station, and he's like, "Sarge," he said, "why was I brought in?" He said, "Drinking. Damn, it's different. When do we start?" All those classic Ryan gags. But I used to do these sketches often in the pub because we ran my parents ran the Red Lion Hotel in Pontarddulais, so I was like the resident performer, singing or taking off Ryan or singing the Welsh songs, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful time, and it's incredible to think that he was 40 when we lost him. So that was hard, even at 7 years old, and then the same year, Elvis. So that was another one of my idols. I lost two of my idols in the same year. But Ryan was something else. And it was. I actually used to have this badge, the Ryan badge, and that was always by my bedside with, a few bits of change and stuff like that and whatever. And that badge was always there, and it'd always go in my pocket. I wouldn't put it on my cardigan or jumper or something or coat because in case it got lost. So I'd always keep it in my pocket. So I think it's somewhere in a memorabilia box. But yeah, it was a very special time, and but that's the amazing thing about him. From 3 to 93, the guy was incredible, and I didn't really scratch the surface of where he was heading for, really. I mean, he did so much in that short time, really. The journey really from, I suppose, my career, and then encapsulating the first time at the Grand would be something like this. So from the age of 14, I worked all the professional, as a professional act in the Workmen's Club, Workmen's Club, social clubs, whilst I was at school, earning, pretty decent money. And from that to other places, supporting people like Little and Large, Jim Davidson, Bobby Davro, Helen Shapiro, the Wurzels, Max Boyce, all these people around the various countries in different theatres. Then I was 16 years old or something like that, 14, 15, about 15, 16. And then when I was 17, New Faces came along, so I got on that, and I was one of the winners on there with a guy, Joe Pasquale, who was still a great friend today. He's phenomenal, and that's 34 years ago. There we go, 35 years ago nearly. So from there, I went into the company of Les Mis, and I studied with a guy, David Kelsey, drama, because I was already kind of, after New Faces, I was doing very well with my own band, and we were going all around the various theatres and clubs and so forth. And then, but I auditioned for the West End, but I needed something else, as they said, it didn't quite sort of, the directive wasn't quite right. So I started with a guy, David Kelsey, drama, and Alan Davis from Neath, of course, has always been my voice coach from the age of 15. So with those two people, marrying those two things together, I auditioned for Les Mis, got into London 1991, did 10 months in that show, understudy in Enjolras, did about 180 performances of that particular lead role, and then I went into the Manchester production because I was offered the role of Marius on my wedding day, would you believe? So it's all a work in theatre. We love these sounds, lovely work in theatre, Grand. There's life, So from that, Marius, I did that for 18 months in Manchester, which then I lived up there for a while, moved down to the next job, literally from Marius and Les Mis to Raoul in Phantom. Thrown on 20 minutes notice on the second year I was at Phantom for the Phantom, because his voice had gone. And they came to my room and said, "Can you do the Phantom today?" In case you don't realise, I don't really play the role, so let's play something else. So I did, and I had 20 minutes notice. They slapped a mask on me, slapped the stuff on, and just on you go, And that was it. On you go. Pushed me on, and that's finished. I finished my run there in 1995, 97. I did some touring, recorded an album. Went to London 97 as Raoul and covering the Phantom. And then I took over 98, and I left as a Phantom full-time. And then I left in just before 2000. And I went on the tour of Phantom to Edinburgh and Southampton. There I finished in 2000 March. Moved to Somerset. So just had a bit of sabbatical for a while, really. Came out, went into do Valjean 2002. Continued within this time to do a lot of gigs abroad. For example, they contract me to take my shows on board with the theatres on cruise ships, for quite some years. And then moved on to do 2007 High Society. That was the next musical. I then decided to do a lot of concerts then with the marvellous, of course, Ian Parsons, who was, very kind to set all this up today. We did. So it was mainly concert work, and then on from that, I continued the process of writing. I coached a lot of people. This kind of run right the way through. So I've probably coached a couple of hundred really in my time, and quite a few have gone on to do lead roles in the West End and so forth. So yeah, it's been very mixed with the writing, with the teaching, with the theatre work, with the concert work, and of course, I mean now, say it's all, which is great. It's all sort of coming alive again, which is fantastic, and of course, being this wonderful theatre. Yeah. So, but the first time I appeared here, I mean, the lead up to that, I'd always wanted to have. That was my dream. It's my hometown, so it's got to be the number one venue, which was the Grand Theatre. So, and I remember saying to my dad, my mum, to family, I will have my own show one day. But one thing I was really passionate about as well is, of course, musicians. I love working with live musicians, as many as possible, and of course the Welsh Male Choir. And that was a very important thing to me. Thought, if I come here, that's what I'm gonna do. That's got to be the first one. So I got into Les Mis in '91, and shortly after, I just rang up the theatre. I didn't know anybody here, and I just rang up the theatre and asked, could I speak to the manager? I just didn't know the manager, because you couldn't go on Google then and just go, was the manager of the theatre, or get on the site and find out who the manager was. You had to kind of find out from someone, or somebody knew. Nobody did. So that was my circle at the time, so I just rang up. And they put me through to Gary Isles. And Gary and I spoke. And I kid you not, he said, okay, and we talked dates on that first call. And that's how, it was really simple. He was so easy to talk to. He was asking me questions, thinking that sounds great, where I was from and why, and a bit of the history of my history of the Grand since a kid, and things like that, how it was always my dream. And he went, and he said, Michael, let's see if we can make that happen. Yeah, I think we can. I want to make that happen for you. Let's do it. It was his words. And then he said, right, so leave it with me. Get the date. We'll firm up some of these dates and get some firm dates. The next call, the gig was in. The gig was in. Sent a contract, arrived in a couple of days. And he said, yeah, just choose who you want. I said, who would you recommend, as a musical director? He said, well, John Quirk's very good. He said, he does a lot of our pantos and things like that. So to John, bass player, brilliant. So I spoke to John, and I think we had about a 15-piece. We had a big band, and I think I had a 120-piece choir. This is the Morrison RFC choir. Huge choir. And all racked up on the stage. So you can imagine. And of course my family are in, my friends are in, and everybody, is there to support me. And the place was packed. And I'm backstage, and it's just happening. And I can't even remember at the time rehearsing very much for it. I got all the parts done, and the Conrad Jones did most of the parts for me, for all the band and stuff, and the choir parts and everything. And suddenly then, I remember it kicking up, the overture kicking off, and my heart was just like, really going for it. And then suddenly I remember, it's me now. Rather than watching the panto and things with the curtain rise up or swag out, it's me. And when that opens, that's who they're going to see. And it was just the most, exciting but terrifying thing I've ever happened. But it was quite emotional as well. And I remember stood there, I think, for about, 5 seconds, but seemed like a lifetime. And I just looked. I didn't utter a word. The band just held for my first part of the song. And then I started. It was just the 5 seconds of just silence and everyone looking at me like, wow, this is amazing. And I finally realised that I took that in, and it happened. And then suddenly the gig started, and it was all things to be from obviously Les Mis, stuff from Guys and Dolls, there was an array of stuff from chess, from Jesus Christ Superstar. I think I finished the first act with Gethsemane and that kind of thing, you know. So it was, yeah, we did Anthem because the choir sang it with me, and we did Mavan We. It was just it was great, and I think I look at it now, and it's very different, obviously, because it's a very different world we have now, and the way things work and everything. But I would say for anybody, you know, not to be discouraged to think something is like untouchable because it seems like, I don't know, a bit too much of a step. If you've got the passion, if you've got the drive, you've got the belief, that's the first thing, just the belief and that want to do it, that is a start. You don't just kind of create a framework and then fill it in with the magic. The magic has to be there from the off. The framework happens on from that. So, and you start, yeah. So if you see the theatre, you think, I want to perform there, make it happen. You do anything you want to do. There's nothing can pull you back if you really want to do it. If you're prepared to do anything it takes, you'll do it. You get there and you'll have that feeling of the first time, your show, whatever it is, could be a band, could be an orchestra, it could be anything, it could be a musical director, it could be anybody. But the Grand Theatre is here to encourage that, and particularly people that are local, that are passionate about it, we need that. I mean, I've done it. It is Steve Balsamo and Ria and so many people that have, you know, come from Swansea, Harry Seacombe. I mean, it's an array of people, but they all started the same. Ria started the same way as Ria Jones. I mean, we worked the clubs together. And I tell you something else, Catherine Zeta-Jones, you know, we used to work the clubs together when we were 15 and 16, and look where she's ended up, you know. So, I mean, it's incredible, you know, the journey. So have the drive, have the belief, have the passion, and just go for it. And why not start at the Grand Theatre? Because that's where it started for me, really. On from that, there's been various concerts I've done leading up to the ultimate, which was, of course, the centenary of the Grand Theatre, when Gary called me. Well, Gary asked me to be part of that, along with the wonderful Ria Jones. And it was just bizarre, but bizarre in the sense that you had Dame Gwyneth Jones, Dennis O'Neill, Jason Howard, there was Ria and myself, and also in the Doyley Cart Company at the time was Alfie Bow, and I'd met Alfie a year prior at the Albert Hall in London when I did the Royal Gala, Princess Business Trust Royal Gala televised thing, with Eric Clapton, Shirley Bassey, and a host of another Welsh, you know, Shirley Bassey. So we get everywhere. And then Alfie, I was doing Sullivan's Lost Chord at the end of the show, and Alfie actually was behind there was a big, massive chorus. So it's before Alfie kind of launched to the superstardom that he is today, and rightly so. But that's the first time I met Alfie. And then, of course, I came to the Grand Theatre then to do the centenary, and all these opera stars. Of course, Alan Davis, my coach, big operatic tenor, and I said, "Oh, they've asked me to do the centenary at the Grand." Who's on it? I said, "Oh, Dame Gwyneth Jones." Said, "Oh gosh, you on with Dame Gwyneth?" Well, Dame Gwyneth Jones was probably the most famous Turandot that has ever, you know. Her Turandot is world famous, and Aquesta Regia is just something else. So I've always admired that. So I've been working with this woman, and I've worked with Jason Howard loads of times, and we love working together, and a couple of times with Dennis O'Neill, you know. So it's always lovely to work. And then with the National Chamber Orchestra of Wales, led by, of course, John Quirk. Again, so it was sort of like the family's getting bigger, you know. It's really. Ria and I did some Welsh stuff. I think it was Big Alaba Davi. There was I think another Welsh piece I did, and I did Last Night of the World with Ria. That was nice. That was very, very very passionate. In fact, there's clips of these online. They're quite lovely to see, you know. And of course, it's not just what happens on stage. There's memorable things that happen off stage, and they can last 5 minutes. They can last 15 seconds, 10 seconds, you know. But they're special. And one was I was warming up backstage, and I just happened to be doing to get the lifts going, get the buzz going and really liven up the face. Using the m, so I used the me. So I was doing this me, and there's just for ages me. The next thing, door open, poof, Dennis O'Neill. Yeah. Me all the time with you, isn't it? Yeah. So that was. He obviously couldn't resist that one, and I'm glad that he didn't resist, and he got on with it and did that, because that sticks in my mind. Jason was laughing too. It was good timing. It's all about the timing, and but it's lovely to work with voices and souls like that on stage, and to celebrate such an important part of the Grand Theatre, especially with all its links to me from my childhood, from my dad, through into doing my own shows here, and we've had some spectacular nights at the Grand Theatre. So the very interesting project I did once, and that was the Go Now, which is the music of the Moody Blues, which featured two of the Moody Blues people, so two people that were in the Moody Blues for some 25 years with Justin, Graham and the boys. It was a great thing to do. So I was put in as lead singer. So we did a series of gigs, and I was talking to my dear friend Ian Parsons about this show and how sort of authentic it was, really, and it was a big sort of challenge for me. So I'd accepted to do a load of these dates, and I said, why shall we try and get one maybe at the Grand? Anyway, so anyway, it happened. We booked the thing in, but then I got offered the role of Perron in Evita, and as I say, I'd sort of eventually managed to, as I say, this is before, so I got the role after committing to the date of the Grand. I thought, well, I have to get that day off. So I got that day off, not realising where the locations were at the times, around that period for the show, So anyway, it turns out that the show was in Aberdeen. So we open on the Tuesday in Aberdeen. I do that Tuesday, 2 shows on a Wednesday, then did Thursday, then Friday morning I got on a plane and drove down to Gatwick, because I'd organised this before. I left my car at Gatwick because I flew back from Ireland to Gatwick, and then I left my car in Gatwick. Then I flew up to Aberdeen, and then I flew back down then on the Friday of the day of the Moody's gig at 8 o'clock in the morning. Arrived there, eventually got my car about 11:30, something like that. Got away, got to the Grand Theatre about 3:30, 4:15. Went straight in, put my ears on, the in-ears, plugged in, got into the band. We did a full, practically a 2-hour rehearsal. Went at 45 minutes, quick little munch, little cup of tea. Went on, did a 2-hour show plus, came down about 10:10. Saw my family outside for 20 minutes, 10:30. I got in the car and I drove to, I've got as far as Preston, actually. Stayed overnight in Preston. And I got there it was about 5 a.m. because I made sure I stopped lots of intervals so I didn't get sleepy or anything. So as I was feeling a bit, I stop, lots of coffee, run up and down, I think, just to keep fresh. Anyway, I got there about 5 a.m. eventually to Preston. 3 hours later, I get up at 8 o'clock. I didn't even have a chance to run in the shower because I'd not set an alarm. But bing, I'd woken up and it's 1 minute past 8, run up, threw the stuff on, ran, grabbed a bacon sandwich from the breakfast area, coffee, take away, off I went. In fact, I left with their cup in the car, and I was just like quickly down, got off in the car, and then on the way over, I was coming into Aberdeen. I thought, crikey, am I going to get there? And eventually I got there at 25-2, and they just finished the warm up. And the reason why I had to be back from the matinee is because they wouldn't give me the Saturday off. They would not give me the Saturday off, so I had to literally do it. It was the craziest 24 hours that I don't just think of my life, of anybody's life, where I fly both. I mean, it's not only every mode of transport really, and I did the matinee that day, and I was kneeling down by the coffin at the start when they're doing the beginning part of Evita. And I honestly thought, it should be me in there, really, in that bloody casket. I mean, I literally it was surreal. But I did the show, and I did both shows, and I finished it. We went to the pub after, saw some of the guys, and they just said, that is the most ridiculous thing we've ever seen in our lives. But I did the shows, but I was a bit, I'm going to say, bewildered, but kind of pleased and proud I'd done it, you know. And I thought, hang on, last night I was down at the Grand Theatre rocking it with the Moody Blues guys, you know. It was the most bizarre but amazing thing I've ever done. I don't think I'd ever do it again, but now I've done it. It's a kind of I think it's an achievement. It's crazy, really, but let's just face it, I don't think it certainly gives me a yardstick of what I'm capable of doing. And there's nothing wrong with my stamina, obviously. So I managed to do that. But that was probably the craziest time of my life. But it's a great story. It's a great story. Ian Parsons loves it.